Hello, this is Alex from phpacademy.org, back with another video for the new Boston. So you'll notice that if you've already watched my introduction to XML video, you'll notice that I've retained the structure of my example and I've put it into a file called example.xml. So I've put it into an XML file, and what we're going to be doing in this tutorial is just reading in different elements of this data. So you can see that we've got our root tag here, which is important. This must exist in every XML file you create. We've got our producers as a root tag, and we've ended our root tag obviously at the bottom. And inside here we've got a tag here called producer, and we're ending it here, and we're doing the same 3 times. And inside we've got elements name and age for each producer. So what we can do is we can, inside PHP, once we've opened this XML file successfully, we can say grab the age of the first producer or the name of the first producer, and vice versa. We can, or so on and so forth, we can say name and age for the second producer or the third producer. And what we're going to be doing is inside our index.php file, we're going to be loading this file in and accessing it as if it were an array. We're loading this in as an array, if you like, or rather each element in this or each level to this, we're going to be accessing using this symbol here. So we've got a hyphen and a greater than sign, and then each child, if you like. So we've got producer here, and so on and so forth into it. So you can have many parents and children, blah blah blah. We're going to access using array. So let's go ahead and open up our file. I'm going to create a new variable called XML, and I'm going to be using this function called simple XML load file. Now, simple XML is a new feature introduced in PHP 5 that allows us to open a XML file using this function and really easily access each element of our XML file. So you'll see how simple it is in just a moment. So here we are going to specify example.xml. So now we've successfully opened up our XML. Let's refresh our page and see what happens. So we've got nothing at the moment because we're not returning any values. So now let's start to think about returning some values. So we need to think about this carefully. We don't need to include this producer's root tag anywhere because this is just the root tag of our document. It's not important. But what we can do is access each producer now, because we've got these tags here and then elements inside. So let's go ahead and say XML. In fact, what we'll do is we'll say echo XML, and then we're using a hyphen and a greater than sign. Now we're going to say producer, because this is the name of our tag here, and you need to remember that within XML everything is case sensitive. So if this producer here had a P, and the same with this one here, or capital P rather, and the same with this one, we need to give it a capital P when we go to access it inside here. So let's just save that file there. Okay, so XML producer, now we've got square brackets because we're going to choose which producer we want to echo data for. So it's either producer 0, remember we're dealing with arrays, so we've got 0, 1 or 2. So just for an example, I'm going to leap straight to the second, which is going to be 0, 1. So let's put a 1 in there, and now we need to access the tag that we want to display. So I want to display the name and the age of this second producer. So now what we can do is say name, then we can catenate on here, and we can say age. Oh, sorry, age. Okay, so that's it. That's all we need to do. Let's go back to our, well, let's recap of what we've done so far. We've opened up our XML file. We have echoed out our XML producer and the location 1, which is the second producer. Remember, we start 0 and 1, and then we're echoing out the name and the age, which are the 2 tags inside here. So let's come and refresh in here. Undefined constant age. Let's have a look at this. Oh yeah, that's because yeah, that's because we've put a space in there. Okay, that's absolutely fine. What we can now do is just say age there as well, I believe. Will work. No. Okay. So we'll have to redefine this here. So we'll have to say echo out the name, and then we can concatenate on. I think we can probably concatenate on XML producer 1 age. So let's give that a refresh and see what happens. Okay, yeah, so now we've got Billy and then 16. So let's just put a space in here so it looks a bit nicer. You could say is even. So we've read out the second producer from this file, and we've read the name and the age. So however many tags we add in here, we can produce them to the user. So now you hopefully are starting to see why this can be useful. We're transferring over data in a structured format that can be read in using a program like code through PHP. It can also be done with other sort of web development languages, and it can also be done with software. So it's a really useful tool. Okay, so now what we want to look at is how we can loop, so we can produce the names of all the producers. So let's get rid of this code. What we want to say is we want to say for each, so we're using our for each statement here, and inside here we can say for each XML producer as, and we can just give this a variable name, so I'm going to call this just producer. So for each XML producer, so we're using XML to open the file, so for each one of these producers which we've named as producer, we can grab this data, the specific data that we need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say echo producer. Remember, we're just referencing it from this producer here. For each producer, as producer, we're echoing out the name first of all. Name. And then we're echoing out producer age. So we're saying, well, we can pop a space in there, is, and then on the end we can just put a line break. So for each of these producers in here, producer 1, 2 and 3 at location 0, 1 and 2, we are echoing out the producer name, and then we're saying is, and then producer age using this variable here in our for each. So if you don't know how for each loop, there is a tutorial on it. Go back and have a look at that, and that makes sense. But for now, if we refresh, you can see that it's produced all 3. So now you can really start to see how useful this can be with things like YouTube videos. In the example that I used in the introduction to XML, I showed some YouTube XML output. Now what if you wanted to display, say, all tweets from a selected user on Twitter, or you wanted to show all videos from a selected user on YouTube? You can use exactly this to do that, because you're loading in this XML file and you are showing the output. Using this kind of loop to take each producer in this case as a single variable and accessing each element or each tag of this, whatever you want to call them, in sort of like a couple of lines rather than echoing that in individually. So you might want to say add in now. I mean, we've defined our structure, we've defined how this is structured, so we know how it's structured, but let's add another producer in. We've added another producer in now, so when we're reading back this data, we're then just updating the data without knowing how many elements exist within this structure. So the whole point of this simple XML tutorial is showing you that no matter what structure we have within, well, as long as we know the structure, no matter how many different pieces of data are in there, we can grab every single piece of data and do whatever we want with it. Echo it out, store it into a database, store it into a file, put it into another XML file, or like I said before, just simply echo it out to the user and display data like this.